And just like that, we are back. Welcome back, Maksim Outdoorsers. State Park number 17, Cook Forest. This is part 2. This week, I'm taking you along the Baker Trail. We'll be showing you some awesome fall foliage like this, the Clarion River, and even a waterfall. So what are you waiting for? Part 2 from Cook Forest State Park. State Park number 17 for my channel. What else more do I have to say? Let's go. All right, well, this is the start of part 2 here from Cook Forest State Park. In case you missed part 1, last week we climbed this behemoth multiple times, got some really cool views from the top of it, as well as hiked on over to Seneca Point overlook. So last week we got some really cool views of the fall foliage, and this week for part 2 we're going to be continuing on onto this trail and heading on down the river trail onto the Baker Trail. So today's goal, we're gonna head on down to the Clarion River, try to get some cool shots and views of that, and go see an old waterfall. So that's the goal for the day. We're gonna start descending, losing a couple 100 feet of elevation, and say goodbye to the fire tower for now. All right, guys, well, welcome back. Like I said before, part 2 here from Cook Forest State Park. And I think I got a good one for you guys this week as we descend along the Baker Trail / River Trail on our way down to the Clarion River. We're going to be talking a little bit about Cook Forest and the history here, including Tom Cook, the man who first settled this area. And we'll be seeing man-made waterfall that the Cook family built way back in probably the 1800s, maybe early 1900s, for a way for them to get logs down into the Clarion River and eventually down to Pittsburgh. So they said we're going to be descending a couple 100 feet, but you can't really beat views like this. Trees are probably about a week away from peak foliage, as you can see here. Lots of yellows and oranges all around me. And yeah, what better way of spending a Friday morning than hiking through the Black Forest here in Jefferson County. So I'll show you some of the sights along the way as we descend on down to the beautiful Clarion River. Well, if you missed or forgot last week's episode, I touched a little bit on the history of this area. So Cook Forest was established back in 1927, thanks to the Commonwealth pretty much wanting to preserve this area for its natural beauty. It was the first ever state park in Pennsylvania that was conserved and made a state park due to its natural beauty. And as you can see here, not much has changed. Still beautiful as it was back in 1927. Mr. Tom Cook came to this area back in the early 1800s on his mission to try and scout out a way to make a canal from eastern to western Pennsylvania. Ultimately, it failed, but he did find a way to get trees and lumber down from the Clarion to Pittsburgh. So it was a successful venture. Him and his 10 kids lived out here their entire life, as well as their descendants, the Cook family, still live in this area to this day. And we also talked a little bit about Indians and the Native Americans of this area as well. So if you missed part one, make sure you head on back and check that out, because a lot of cool history and whatnot. So this park is one of the larger parks that we've been in, 8,500 acres, and it is my 17th state park for my state park series. So slowly rolling along here. Hopefully by the time it hits winter, we'll be at I'm hoping 25, so we'll have 100 more to go after that. So here's to that. All right, well, our descent down from the fire tower seems to have concluded. And as you can see here, we are now right along the banks of the Clarion River, as the Baker Trail and the River Trail keep on heading down towards Hemlock Island. I'm gonna show you a pretty incredible view here. Almost need a little drum roll here as we pop out of these trees. Let's go get a view of the Clarion here for you. And boom, look at that view. Check that out. Beautiful view of the surrounding hills, as well as the Clarion River here. And if we do look downriver, you can see an island right here. This is Hemlock Island. And if I remember right, the waterfall should be at the end of that. So I'm really not that far from the waterfall. I'm gonna hang out here for a little bit and take in some of this beautiful scenery here along the river. All right, well, we are gonna bid adieu to the Clarion River here for a little while as we head on down to Hemlock Island there in the distance, if you can see it. So I did notice something kind of interesting here as I was waiting for the time lapse to wrap up. Looks like there was an old stone foundation here, probably way back in the 1800s. Tom Cook did have 10 kids, so who knows, this could have been one of their houses or cabins way back in the day, or maybe one of their descendants. So it definitely looks man-made. Obviously nothing has been here in a while. You can see this tree seemingly growing straight out of the middle of what I'm guessing was an old cabin or something along the banks of the Clarion. But yeah, who wouldn't want to live here? Thought that was interesting. But yeah, we're going to continue on down, heading downstream with the Clarion, and you can see a nice view of the trail here. It gets a little narrow, but if I'm reading my map right, I think we're about 1 mile to 2 miles away from the waterfall now. So let's go and try to make it to Hemlock Island. All right, well, if we peek on through the forest here, if you look very carefully, you can kind of see a sandbar that is pretty much straight ahead of me. And to the right, you can see some more land, and this is officially the start of Hemlock Island. So we're getting closer and closer to the waterfall. So let's see if we can get some better looks at Hemlock Island here as the trail heads on down. Well, there she is, exactly where I remember her being. The old man-made waterfall, if you want to call it that. You can see some of the stone brickwork there in the distance. So let's get down here and get a little closer look at it. Alrighty, well, we made it to this old waterfall slash dam slash levee, and I'm gonna do my best job to try and show you what they used it for back in the day. So obviously all these stones were all hand moved here, hand carved. You can see the tree, how old that is, it's grown right out of it. But you have to think back in the 1800s, back when the lumber industry was in its heyday, the biggest issue for these loggers was to get their tree from point A to point B. So say you're up in these woods a couple 100 feet farther than where I am right now, and you cut a tree down, what's the easiest way to get the tree from point A to point B? Well, they devised this plan to raise this creek bed up. That way they were able to pretty much dam this creek, fill this creek up, and then put logs on it and float them down the river. So we'll try to go over here to the mouth of this. So you might have had a worker down here that would place blocks here, and this would basically elevate the creek, send the logs down until you had a pile of logs here, and then send them down to the Clarion River, which eventually links up with Pittsburgh, as well as, you know, the Ohio River and the Mississippi. So really, if you could get a tree down this little creek here and down to the Clarion, the world is your oyster. So that's kind of the idea behind all this. It was pretty much an older version of a levee or a dam, and they would raise and lower this creek to enable them to ship lumber downstream to big towns like Pittsburgh. So that's the whole idea behind this. Obviously it's not a waterfall, but it looks like one, and that's what I'll call it, the old waterfall. So there you have it. Here's kind of a cool old inscription here on the rock. I have no clue really what this says. Looks like LCHICUHU backwards Y maybe. And I can begin to guess what that says, maybe 1880. Yeah, check that out. Not a big deal, but I thought it was somewhat interesting. If you look really close here at the bottom section of this dam or levee or whatever you want to call it, you can see this is all wood. So I mean, that wood's been sitting here since the 1800s. As well as this piece, you can see probably shot out at some point, maybe during a big flood. But pretty crazy that this wood hasn't totally deteriorated over all these years. I'm not really sure what the middle section is. I don't know if it's kind of like a relief valve or what, but obviously not in operation anymore. But that's going to be probably the last look at the waterfall, and we're going to head on down to the Clarion before heading back up to the fire tower and calling it a day. So awesome day. This will be the last stop of the day for us here. Figured I would take another breather here along the banks of the Clarion River, get a couple time lapses done, and take a little lunch break. To the right of me here is the creek with the waterfall. This is where it feeds into the Clarion here, but some more awesome fall foliage views here along the banks of the Clarion. So after I leave here, we'll be backtracking where we hiked already and heading back up the hill to the fire tower, and that'll be the day. So speed that up and hopefully get to the top relatively fast. If I see anything else cool along the way, I will be sure to show you. Well, we've said goodbye to the trail and said hello to Fire Tower Road here, back where we started the day on part one of this whole journey. If you missed that, go back and check that out. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode. State Park number 17 here at Cook Forest. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. These last two episodes had everything from cool overlooks to a fire tower, waterfalls, Clarion River, and some amazing fall foliage that you can't really notice right here, right now. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. As always, please subscribe. It means a lot, helps me out. Hit that like button if you can as well. Leave me a comment. It's always good to hear from you guys. And check me out on Instagram and Facebook at Maksim Outdoors for little sneak peeks. But yeah, we're not done here yet at Cook Forest. I'm probably gonna have another, at least 1 or 2 episodes here. Tomorrow, we're gonna go and try to find that swinging bridge that has eluded me for so many years. So that's the goal tomorrow, aka next week. So, all right guys, thanks for coming out and supporting once again. See you next week.